This is a country that is in pain right now. And if Democrats who have slim majorities in the House and the Senate, we got President Biden in the White House, if we do not respond now, yes, I believe 2 years from now, the Republicans will say, hey, you elected these guys, they did nothing, vote for us, and they will win.
That was Senator Bernie Sanders speaking to Dana Bash on CNN. And honestly, you don't need to be a history buff to understand how accurate Bernie Sanders' statement was there. Because the question is, what is the political consequence of Democrats playing patty cake with dishonest Republicans who have shown us that they want to do nothing more than stall real relief to Americans? And the answer is, if they don't fight hard enough, in 2 years, when we have our midterm elections, history will repeat itself. And Sanders did offer some specific examples of what he was talking about there. So let's take a look at the rest of the clip.
If Democrats don't pass these sweeping changes you're talking about, do you think that they will lose control of the House and Senate in 2022?
That's what history tells us. What history tells us is that when Clinton won in 92, 2 years later, the Democrats didn't do as much as they should have. They got swept out by the Republicans. Obama won in 2008, 2010, Republicans decimated them at the polling booths. Look, Donna, this is not complicated stuff. We're in an unprecedented moment in American history. Tens of millions of people are hurting. People are watching this program, do not have food in their cupboards to feed their kids. They are sick, they cannot afford to go to the doctor. They cannot afford the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs. They're worried about climate change and what that will mean for their kids and future generations. That is where we are right now. And the American people say, we elected you guys, do something.
And he's right, just to offer you some more shocking statistics, as I've mentioned multiple times on this show, because every time I say it, it still shocks me. 8 million Americans fell into poverty since the last summer as a result of this pandemic. 8 million Americans. Unemployment rate is still at 6.7%. There are jobs, small companies that shut their doors, not temporarily, but permanently. And we're increasingly relying more and more on this so-called gig economy, where in places like California, these workers have no real rights. They are reclassified as a completely different classification of workers who do not get benefits. Our economic situation is dire, and it's only been compounded by this pandemic. And if Democrats don't get their act together, if they're unwilling to do what it takes, either through reconciliation or nuking the legislative filibuster in the Senate, I guarantee you, much like Bernie did there, that they will lose majorities in both the House and the Senate in the midterm elections.
Yeah, Anna, you were saying something in the previous segment about how it's almost like an abdication of duty in terms of what this federal government is supposed to be doing for the American people. And I think it's so transparently obvious here that that's what's happening, right? That's what's happening with regards to the previous administration, and that's what's happening with regards to Republicans interfering or not doing what they can to make sure that Americans are taken care of. But it's been a full abdication of responsibility as a government. I think they're fundamentally trying to make the American people accept a modified version of a social contract. And this social contract, we give them the consent to be governed. That's if they take care of their job as a government. And what they want us to be comfortable with is allowing them to do anything they want, and the American people just put up with it because, well, we're used to it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what Republicans fail to realize is that a lot of the growing rage in this country is not just going to magically disappear or subside with fancy talks of unity. People are not interested in flowery language right now. They're interested in being able to stay in their homes. They're interested in being able to provide for their families. They're interested in ensuring that they have enough to send their children to school, or more importantly, that they don't have to go bankrupt or dig themselves into a massive hole to send their children to school so they can get a decent education. People are angry for justified reasons. And when you have that climate of pure rage and anger for justified reasons, that can easily be exploited by bad actors. So a lot of the unrest that we're seeing in this country, and I'm not blaming, what happened in the Capitol, for instance, a few weeks ago on people living in poverty, but I do think that there is quite a bit of economic anxiety in this country right now, and people are looking for any solution. And that creates a climate that's easy to exploit for all the wrong reasons. And I am worried about the future of the country. I'm worried about people's livelihoods, and Democrats cannot play around. They can't play around. I don't care what Biden has to say about unity, right? If you want unity in this country, first of all, the objective shouldn't be unity among Republican and Democratic lawmakers, people in positions of power and privilege. No, the unity should be focused on what we need to do to ensure that Americans see one another as people again, because that's not happening. And it's very difficult for Americans to see one another as people when we just had 4+ years of the Republican Party led by Donald Trump pointing his fingers at the so-called others and using them as the scapegoat for everyone's problems. Whether it's China because of the virus, whether it's Mexico because of immigrants, whether it's Central America because of immigrants, those people who have no power are not the reasons why we're experiencing this economic anxiety right now. But it's very easy for fascists to use that narrative to divide the country, to divide and conquer, when you're not getting real solutions from our lawmakers, from our federal government.
Yeah, and I'm really taken back by the willingness of Democrats and some progressives to always capitulate to this type of thing in the Republican Party, right? And it really goes in two different ways. You have some who want to capitulate to so-called moderate Republicans, and we know that doesn't exist. Susan Collins is not a moderate; she's just quietly radical. That's it. And then you have others who want to align with other factions of the right. When the winning majority is a intersectional coalition of diverse people who are fighting on behalf of liberating everybody in this country and across this planet, that's a winning majority any given day of the week.
Absolutely. And look, we're going to talk about this a lot more on the show today, but it's important to everyone to like really sit and think about what your theory of change is. Is your theory of change about empowering people to collectively fight for what we need in this country? Or is your theory of change something different? And if it is something different, ask yourselves whether there's any historical example you can point to for that kind of strategy to work. Because honestly, anytime we've seen transformative politics, either in this country or around the world, it's through a collectivist effort. The largest voting bloc in the United States consists of non-voters, people who are eligible to vote but choose not to because they feel that government has done nothing for them. What can we do to get them involved? What can we do to empower them, to work with them collectively, to hold these lawmakers accountable so they're no longer afraid of their donors? They're more afraid of the collectivist action that's gonna take place in this country through us empowering them. That's my theory of change. That's what I believe in.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.